Hey everyone, so today I just wanted to go over everything I know about Path of Exile 2, everything that will help you become a better player and get more enjoyment out of the game. Now, some of the things I cover in this video I have covered in previous videos, so I will briefly go over them, just so I'm not regurgitating the same information across multiple videos. Now, I also want to say there's probably going to be so many tips that I did not include in this video that you think should have made it in. So if you have a tip that you think everyone should know, leave it in the comments, and I will make a pinned comment with any and all information that you provide. Now, the first and most important thing you need to do is get all of your permanent upgrades from the campaign. You should have 24 weapon set points, that's 24 skill points for free. And if you take off all of your gear, you should be at minus 40% resistances. You can get 20% resistance in fire, cold, and lightning from the campaign. You get a minus 60% debuff when you make it to the end game. And you should have 100 spirit. So in the description I will put a link to maxroll.gg so you can see all of your permanent stats from the campaign and you can go and collect all of them. So next we have some quality of life tips. So you can control and alt click NPCs to perform various actions. For example, if you control click Doriani, he will identify any unidentified items you have in your inventory. And if you alt click him, it will open his shop. And with Ketsuli, control click opens the disenchant window, and alt click opens her shop. So just something to get in the habit of doing. You leave a map, control click Doriani, identify your items, control click Ketsuli, disenchant uniques, whatever. And that's just going to save you a little bit of time. So next we have chat commands. I'll just put them on screen real quick. So you can just type in chat /played, age, so you can see how much playtime you have when your account was created. You can see how many deaths you have, how many total kills you have, and you can just pause the video to see the various commands. Now, something else that's useful, on the same website, Path of Exile 2 database, link in the description, you can see every item, where it drops, the item levels. There's so much valuable information here. Let's say you're farming Breach, you can go to the Breach, see what the boss drops, same thing with Ritual, Delirium, Expeditions, all of this information, drop level, etc. So we can go to like the Ritual items, Omen of Dextral Annulment, we can click on it, and we can see that it drops at level 80 plus. This is extremely valuable information because if you're in a level 79 area like tier 15, you cannot get these big money drops from a ritual. So just so much information here. Again, link in the description. So next, something you should know is to not pick up garbage. Like running over to trash items like Vaal orbs, Regal orbs, they just waste your time. You're going to run less maps per hour and get less currency overall. And along with not picking up garbage is getting a loot filter that works for you. Now, most people use Filter Blade. Again, link in the description. I will also link the filter I use, and what I recommend is that if you use one of their default like uber strict loot filters or mine, go through it, customize it to your needs. Take a full hour to do it. You only have to do it once, but it will save you so much time. So you can see my filter, I hide the transmutations, the augmentations, alchemies, lesser jewelers. I hide small gold piles. I think I have it set to about 4,500 gold or more is shown. So I hide some trash uniques. You can of course show them if you want. But again, go through, customize a loot filter to your needs, and it will save you so much time mapping so you're not running over to every single thing and getting distracted by these low value drops. So next we have two huge omens. Omen of Resurgence, and this is something you always want to have in your inventory. So you right click it to activate it, and when you get to low life, 35% or less, it will fully heal your life, mana, and energy shield. These are only about 6 or 7 exalted orbs, so they're so cheap, and they have a chance to save you, your XP, and your map with however many mechanics it has. 100% worth having on you at all time. And combine that with the Omen of Amelioration. If you are level 94, maybe 95 plus, because this is going to save you 7.5% of your XP when you die. This is so helpful at pushing to those higher levels. These are a little bit more pricey at about 80 exalts apiece, but 80 exalts is worth the 7.5% XP. Along with trying to protect yourself from dying, you might have seen some streamers, especially hardcore streamers, when they get into a sticky situation, they pause the game and they usually leave if they're about to die. Even if you're not playing hardcore, absolutely get in the habit of quitting out of the game if you are being bombarded with various shenanigans. Because this is going to save you XP, it's going to save your map, it's going to save you a lot of grief. Also, if you're fighting a super endgame boss, let's say we're fighting the Breach boss, you get him down to half HP and you're about to die. You quit out of the game, you load back in, go to the well, refill your flasks, you have 5 portals left, and you can go back in and continue the fight where you left off. So he'll still be at half HP. Absolutely get in the habit of quitting out of the game if you're about to die, because it will save you so much grief. I also want to mention, I don't know if this is a glitch, if it is intended or not, but if you are fighting one of these, endgame bosses, and the host dies, but another party member finishes the kill, if the host respawns the team, you will lose any loot the boss drops. Just yesterday, I was helping someone defeat the King of the Mist. So the host died, but I was able to finish the kill, and the boss dropped an Ingenuity. But the host respawned us, and it reset all the loot. They got their Atlas points, but everything else was gone. So, just minus 17 div because the host respawned us at the checkpoint. So that's just something to watch out for. So next we'll talk about trading. So for all of us, something you might not have known is you can just drag and drop what you have to change what you want, what you have. So let's say I wanted to buy some divines. I have one in my inventory, and instead of going through looking for the divine, whatever, if you already have the currency in your inventory, just click it, and there it is. You can even switch these around. It's that easy. Next, I do quickly want to mention the trade chat. This is something I mentioned previously. If you have never played RuneScape, at the Grand Exchange, do not trust any offer you see here. Everyone is trying to take advantage of you. Everyone is trying to lowball you. Well, maybe not everyone, maybe just 99 out of 100 people. So absolutely use the public trade chat at your own risk. Instead, what you should be using is the official trade website. I'm sure just about everyone knows about this, but I will cover it anyways. So you can just type Path of Exile 2 into your browser of choice. The first result, pathofexile2.com, we can go to that. We can go to Trade in the top right corner. We'll log in. And here we have the official Path of Exile 2 trade website. And here you can purchase anything you would ever need for your build. So you can search for it by name, Ingenuity, Utility Belt, or you could use the stat filter to find something specific. Maybe you need a fire, cold, lightning, ring, and you can search for things so easily. We want 30% in everything. And there it is. Again, most people probably already know about the official trade website, but I wanted to mention it anyways. And something else, another tip that I've mentioned previously, if you see an item that has been listed for multiple days, do not be afraid to ask for a lower price. Most of the time, people are going to be happy making a sale, especially if an item has just been sitting in their stash tab for days. So for me, I found this ring 130% resistances with a lightning damage and mana. The person wanted 3 divines, I didn't want to pay that, so I offered them 2 divines and 100 exalts and they gladly accepted it. Another tip to help you make some currency. Now this does require a little bit of currency up front, but what you could do is be a hideout warrior and try flipping items. We can see an Omen of Whittling sells for 3,800 exalts, that's under 13 divines. However, they sell for almost 14 divines. So there is a 1 divine difference selling in divines or exalts. And we can use this to our advantage. So let's say we want to buy an Omen of Whittling. We can see that the top buy offer is 3,810 exalts. That's if I was selling an Omen of Whittling. So we can actually one-up this. Let's try to buy an Omen of Whittling for 3,825 exalts. And this is completely lossless because we're only sacrificing 920 gold. And we can just let that sit. So again, flipping valuable items does require a little bit of currency up front. And then the other thing to factor in is this is not an infinite money glitch. You need gold, because once you get the divines, you'll have to sell them, and getting 3,825 exalted orbs is going to cost you almost 500,000 gold. Oh, Alva has completed one of my currency exchange offers.
Hello.
Real quick, I was able to get the Omen of Whittling for 3,858 exalted orbs. And now we can sell these at 27 divines. That's still 13.5 divines each. So 13.5 times, I think divines are about 302 exalts. So that is a profit of over 200 exalts just by flipping Omens of Whittling. And that's what I mean by turning gold into currency. So I'll just let these sit. They might sell, they might not. Again, it's only 22,000 gold, so it's completely lossless. If they don't sell, I can lower the price. So next we'll quickly go over maps. The absolute best modifiers you can have on your maps are quantity of items, rarity, and pack size. Magic pack size, increased pack size, even additional monster packs. Of course, quantity of items, that is blanket, just more of everything, more currency, more exalts, more divines, more uniques, etc. The best modifier you can have. And then of course, rarity. We will cover rarity when we get to gear and how much you want. It is about 100% minimum, and that is going to greatly increase the amount of drops you get. And then with pack size and additional packs, more enemies, more drops, more experience, more levels. Absolutely crucial to mapping and just getting more. Next, we have a Waystone drop chance. So we can see this map has 210% Waystone drop chance, and typically the more modifiers a map has, the more Waystone drop chance it will provide. So if we just exalt this up, it went up 90%. Of course, if you don't have the currency, it's probably not worth it to just start exalt slamming your maps. This is just to show how to get more Waystone drop chance. So this is important for Citadels because Crisis Fragments scale with Waystone drop chance. So you can push this to 5, 6, even 700% Waystone drop chance, and you can usually get 3 Crisis Fragments per Citadel. That's 1,000 exalts on average per Citadel with a high Waystone drop chance on your map. And if really trying to juice a map for Citadels, you absolutely have to avoid enemies have increased area of effect. The campaign bosses are not balanced around increased area of effect, and some of their attacks will cover the entire arena and you will probably die in one hit. Next we have Delirium on your maps. And this is something I've been preaching for a long time. We have 3 Distilled Ire, tier 15 map, 60% more magic monsters. More magic monsters, more drops, more XP. If you can handle the added layer of difficulty that Delirium adds to your map, I 100% recommend running at least 3 Distilled Ire on your maps. And this is the cheapest emotion. You can get 3 Distilled Ire for only 1 Exalted Orb. We also have Distilled Guilt that increases pack size. That is another option. You can get up to 24% increased pack size. There's Distilled Greed that adds Rarity. So Greed is not super valuable if you're already at 100+% Rarity. Paranoia, increased rare monsters, just go with Distilled Ire. Envy isn't too bad, 30% increased Waystones. These are good for getting Crisis Fragments from Citadels. As for the 5 most expensive Distilled Emotions, Disgust, 30% increased Precursor Tablets, not worth it at all. I've tried running this on rituals to get more of those money tablets, and they are still so unbelievably rare. Despair, increased Simulacrum Splinters, nope, that's not it. 25% chance to have an additional modifier on rare enemies, nope. Uniques have 1 extra modifier, that's not it. And Distilled Isolation is 120 exalts, you're not using 3 of these per map. So definitely just stick with 3 Distilled Ire. And next, you probably want to be Vaaling all of your maps. This can greatly increase the Waystone drop chance, bringing you to 500, maybe even 600%. It can also bring your maps to tier 16, can lower them to tier 14 at about a 10% chance for either of those outcomes to happen. And we can see my map just went to about 500% Waystone drop chance, and this is so good for map sustain. So I'll put this over here, and these are all quant rarity maps, and then these are just rarity pack size maps. Next, when running hideouts specifically, you want an absolutely juiced map with quantity and rarity. And I have a clip of a hideout that I ran with an absolutely giga map. You can see just how crazy the loot is. It does make the map fairly difficult, so this might not be for everyone if your build cannot handle the added difficulty. So the next tip involves blocking undesirable map nodes. So what you could do is go to any map. We have deserted here, for example, and if you open a portal, it now says the map is in progress. So once a map has been attempted, it can no longer get modifiers from a precursor tower. Now this node specifically is leading to the next area, so I kinda have to do it. But depending on your area, let's say this was Forge and you didn't want to do it, you could send a map. Once it has been marked in progress, you can go to your Precursor Tower and apply, say, breaches to the surrounding maps. It will not affect the map that you've attempted, so this allows you to block undesirable map nodes, so long as they are not crucial to pathing to other areas. So next we will talk about gear. You can add breach catalysts to your rings and amulet. So for example, on this ring you can see I have quality, lightning modifiers plus 20%, and that's boosting my lightning damage, all elemental resistances, and lightning resistance specifically. So we can see this is 14% all res, 30% lightning res, but it is now 16% all res, 36% lightning res, plus the lightning damage. Make sure your rings and amulet have these modifiers, depending on what you need for your build, be it more defense, more life, more mana, etc. So next, you can put any notable passive node on your amulet. So right now, I have Mana Blessing. So if we look at my skill tree, I am allocating Mana Blessing on my amulet, and without that, I mean, there would be no way for me to path to this just to pick this node up. So if you hold Alt over any notable passive, you can see the Distilled Emotion combination. So Suffering, Envy, Despair. For Mana Blessing, it is Guilt, Despair, Guilt. And what that looks like, for example, we have Guilt, Despair, and Guilt. Right-click it to open the crafting window. We saw this while looking at maps earlier. Ctrl Click to auto-sort them into the crafting window. And then you can take your amulet and you can see the skill it allocates. And this is just some free damage and or survivability you can get on your amulet for very little cost unless you're using the very expensive Distilled Emotions. Note you cannot put Distilled Emotions or Catalyst upgrades on your rings and amulet if they are corrupted. Next, something that not everyone has is 75% resistances. These are so important because if you are going to take a 10,000 damage hit at 75% resistance, you're only getting hit for 2,500 damage. That's still a lot, and that is a very realistic amount of damage that enemies can hit. Whereas if you had 30% resistance, now 7,000 damage is getting through instead of 2,500, and you just got one shot. So resistances are so important. Of course, it can get a little expensive getting max res on your gear while also still trying to get, life, mana, and anything else you need. And something that could help with this is the Keystone passive, Chaos Inoculation. It makes your maximum life 1, but you are immune to chaos damage. And what that means is you do not have to worry about chaos resistance or life on your gear, and you can allocate that to other stats. So this makes it so much more easy and affordable to get maximum resistances on your gear, but it does come at the cost of reducing your effective health pool. So right now I have a little over 6,000 total HP. I do have something that makes it so damage is taken from mana before life, and if I was to take Chaos Inoculation, I would be losing almost 1/3 of that effective HP. So that is something you definitely have to take into consideration. And next we have Rarity on Gear. So if we bring up the skill menu, we can see on kill effects, so slain monster item drop rarity modifier, I have 144%. You absolutely want to aim for at least 100% rarity on your gear minimum. There's been so much testing on rarity, and having even 100% as opposed to 0%, you are going to get twice as many exalts, you're going to get more divine drops, you're going to get more currency drops, you're going to get more uniques, more everything. Rarity is so important. You absolutely need at least 100%, but definitely try to aim for maybe 150%, and you do not need over 200%. Rarity starts falling off after about 200%, so even going from 200% rarity to 300 or even 400%, the difference is so small. And while we're in this window, the next couple tips: make sure your skill gems are upgraded. Make sure you're not using something that is 3, 4, 5 levels lower than what you could be. And also make sure your gems are qualitied up using gem cutter prisms. So we can see for Archmage, for example, with 20% quality, it adds an additional 2% damage as extra lightning damage. Base is 6, and we bring that to 8%, so 33% more damage. And we can see just how much damage one level adds. A little over 10% damage per level, so make sure everything is the highest level you can use. So next we will look at skill tree pathing. So if you're using a build you've created yourself, go around your passive skill tree and make sure the pathing is optimal, and you can get back a couple skill points doing it. You can also look for alternate paths. So for example, I have 10% increased mana regeneration rate. I have 2 of these nodes for 20%. I could refund these 2 nodes and put them over here for an additional 10 intelligence, and everything would still be connected, everything would still work. And as a mana stacker, every 100 maximum mana I have, I convert that into spell damage. So if I was at 4,597 mana, I'd be able to take away these 2 skill points, put them over here for 2 intelligence nodes, and that would push me to my next damage threshold. So it's little things like this that you want to watch out for, and you want to make sure that your skill tree is optimal. Same thing with the refunding and moving points. If you didn't already know, just refund something temporarily, right? And then you can apply those points. Lock it in, and then you can refund something else to change your skill tree. You do not need to refund everything to make a small change somewhere. Same thing with the small passives. You can just click on them while speaking to Doriani, and you can change them however you want, whenever you want. And finally, we will take a look at the Atlas trees. Now, I have covered this a couple of times. At face value, these are fairly optimal. These will get you through if you just want to copy them. I will explain how and why they each work. Increased rare monsters and pack size. Again, when I explained maps, you want pack size, you want monsters, that's XP and drops. We go over here for some rarity. We get 20% increased quantity of Waystones, that is map sustain. And then we have quantity and rarity. Again, these are huge. 5% increased quantity to just everything, always. We have 3% increased effect of explicit modifiers on your Waystones. We have 5 of these for a 15% bonus. And explicit modifiers are both prefix and suffix modifiers. And what these do is they increase everything. They increase the positives, the prefix mods, so like increased pack size, increased quantity, increased rarity, and it also increases the suffix mods, the negatives, so increased monster life, increased monster damage, etc. Usually, the bonuses outweigh the negatives, so you always want to be boosting your map modifiers. Same thing with Grueling Journey, 2% increased effect of explicit modifiers for each modifier on your map. So again, if we take a look at this one, we have 9. That is an 18% bonus plus the 15% we have from these 5 nodes for a 33% bonus to everything on my map. These nodes are so powerful, especially when you're running increased quantity and rarity. We swing down here for quantity of Waystones, again a little bit more map sustain, and then we have rare and unique monsters have 1 to 2 additional modifiers. So the more modifiers an enemy has, the more items it will drop. Come up here to pack size, again, packs equals drops. Waystones have a 25% buff to the prefix mods or suffix mods when opening maps. So you have a 50% chance of getting a 25% bonus to the positives, the prefix mods, or you have a 50% chance to have a 25% bonus to the suffix mods, the negatives to a map. Again, usually the positives outweigh the negatives. And then finally, we are just buffing the Precursor Tablets. So we have increased effect of Precursor Tablets, we have increased effect of explicit modifiers again on Waystones for each Precursor Tower affecting the map area. So if a map is being hit by 3 or 4 or 5 Precursor Towers, that is an additional 9, 12, 15+% bonus to your maps. And then we have a 20% chance to double the effect of Precursor Tablets. And we'll cover Precursor Tablets in just a second. And then down here we have increased quantity of Precursor Tablets, and I do have local knowledge, so this does change the weighting of items. So if you're not running specifically a swamp, water, or grass biome for the extra currency, the extra socket currency, it will actually decrease the chance of obtaining these currencies. So some people don't go with local knowledge, and they'll just get one more tablet effect. And then we'll just quickly cover the mechanic Atlas trees. Increased number of breaches, absolutely crucial. So this will increase the number of breaches you get by about 60%, if that makes sense. So every 2 maps on average, you will get 3 breaches. And then we have increased quantity of breach splinters. A breach stone, I believe, is about 200 exalts, so very valuable here. And then we have increased monster density. So these 3 nodes are the ones you absolutely want. And for my final 2 skill points, I went with Grasping Hands for just a few extra breach splinters. I know some people go with increased monster density, another 15%, and breaches open and close a little bit faster. These really depend on your build, how fast you are, how good your clear speed is, etc. For expeditions, we have increased quantity of expedition logbooks dropped by runic monsters. These are the money drops. You absolutely want this. And then I go with remnants have an additional prefix and an additional suffix modifier so that you can get those mods that increase expedition logbook drop chance. Swing over to Simulacrum. I went with everything on the left-hand side. Double splinters, 50% more mirrors, increased boss spawn chance. And this is for consistent money from Simulacrum splinters. I have an entire loot video from 100 Delirium mirrors, and the loot was shockingly awful. I absolutely do not recommend you put your points into anything on the right hand side. So we'll swing down here, 50% more Omens, 50% more Audience with the King. These are the money drops. You absolutely want these 2 points. And then swing down here, you can re-roll favors 1 additional time. So you go from 2 pages of loot to 3 pages. So 50% more loot, 50% more chances to obtain those money drops. Some people go with your ritual altars always have 4 altars. I went with deferring favors costs 50% reduced tribute because of how expensive those money items are. Even with this 50% discount, items can still be 1,700, even almost 2,000 tribute to defer. So without that, if you get a money drop on your 2nd or 3rd page, after re-rolling, you're probably not going to have 4,000 tribute to defer it. So absolutely get this because it will save you so much tribute. Swing up here. Now the boss Atlas tree, I think this is completely optional depending on what you want. I went with quantity. I guess you could go with rarity. It's probably not going to make a huge difference. I went with an additional essence just because the slim chance that you could get a greater essence worth a couple hundred exalts. You could go with shrines. Shrines are kind of fun. Why not? And then I went with areas with map bosses have a 30% chance to contain corruption when entered. This just adds 1 level to the area, so you get better loot, more XP. Map bosses grant 50% increased experience. I do not think that is going to do as much as adding 1 level to everything in 1 in 3 maps. Now, for the Arbiter of Ash, there's one thing that I might change. So you get your first points, you don't have a choice, and then you have 20% chance to drop an additional unique, and then you have a 10% chance to drop a valuable gem. So the gems and the Morior Invictus, those are the money drops from Arbiter. So you want the gem drop chance and a chance to drop 2 uniques, so you get that extra currency. I have a 10% chance to drop a valuable socket currency. I do not know if greater jeweler orbs are included in this. If this is a 10% chance to drop a perfect jeweler's orb, this is worth it. So if this is a 10% chance for the Arbiter to drop a valuable socket currency with a 90% chance it's a greater jeweler's orb and a 10% chance it's a perfect jeweler's orb, then this is not worth it. In which case you'd want the Arbiter drops an additional corrupted rare Precursor Tablet because of how expensive ritual tablets are. So this is something that I am not 100% sure on, so I just want to make that clear that this might not be best in slot, in which case you want the corrupted rare Precursor Tablets. And then finally, relating to the Atlas tree, we have Precursor Tablets. So the absolute best modifier you can get is increased quantity of items found. Usually this is best in slot for just about every Precursor Tablet, except rituals, where you want rerolling favors at ritual altars in your map's costs reduced tribute, but you can get your reroll cost down to below 100 tribute. So you can save 1,000 plus tribute rerolling your favors. And then just about everywhere else, for every other mechanic, it's probably just quantity of items on everything. And finally, now that I have fully tested every single mechanic and doing at least 50 runs of each, I am confident when I say rituals are miles ahead of anything else in terms of farming currency. However, they do cost a lot to get started. You absolutely need the Ritual Atlas tree because of how powerful it is. But once you have that, you can make so much currency farming rituals. Next up are expeditions. You don't really need the Expedition Atlas to start really farming currency. The expedition logbooks are common enough, and they're over 200 exalts apiece. And I would tie breaches with expeditions just because of how much loot you can get, how many raw divines you can get. It's just doing breaches is kind of miserable if you're doing 5, 10 plus of them back to back to back, picking up all of that loot, especially if you get like 3 or 4 or even 5 plus breaches on a single map. You'll spend more time looting than actually doing the map. It greatly reduces the fun per hour just having to pick up so many items. And then the absolute worst mechanic in the game is Delirium. Don't ever run a Delirium mirror by itself. Just make sure your maps are distilled with emotions, 60% increased magic monsters for example, and you can drop simulacrum splinters. Now, if you run a map with distilled emotions, again like this, you cannot also do a Delirium mirror. The mirror will not spawn on the map. But again, Delirium mirrors by themselves, not worth running. And I think that is just about everything. And as always, everyone, take care. I think I could redo that. Also, if you're fighting bosses, if you're fighting up, and then I also want to mention, oh my, we're only halfway done. It'll increase quantity, rarity, and we'll cover the Precursor Tablets and we'll cover the Precursor and adding 1 level to everything. in to everything in 1 in 3 maps.